Welcome once again to Studio Hockey, where we try to bring you happenings on and off the field in the sport from both Asian and European perspective. I am joined by my co-host Ernst Baart for a special episode that tracks down a tragedy in Indian hockey 42 summers ago by way of a book from veteran journalist and author Sundeep Misra, who is joining us today on the show. Sandeep's bundle of experience includes more than 3 decades as a journalist, eventually turning into an author and entrepreneur. He has covered a number of Olympics and a total of 9 men's hockey World Cups so far. It's great to have him on the show to throw some light on his latest book on former India defender and 1964 Olympic gold medalist Prithipal Singh, who was tragically murdered in 1983, but the mystery around his killing remains unsolved. To talk about that and much more, including present day hockey, is former India midfielder and captain of the 1980 Moscow Olympics gold medal winning Indian team, Mr. Vasudevan Baskaran. Mr. Baskaran was also part of the Indian team that won a silver medal at the 1973 World Cup, and later on, after his playing career, he went on to coach India at the 1998 and 2006 World Cups, besides the 2000 Sydney Olympics. Welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Thank you so
Hi,
much.
thank you.
It's not often that we talk about a tragic incident from the sport of hockey, but Prithipal has been a cult figure who also won an Olympic silver in 1960 and a bronze medal in 1968, besides the 1964 gold, and he top scored in all those 3 Olympic editions and was hailed as the king of penalty corners. For him to become a victim of the university politics at the age of 51 takes a lot of understanding to know what was the reason for an animosity that lasted well beyond his college days and after becoming the country's sporting hero. Sandeep, my first straight question to you would be, what made you pick Prithipal as the subject of a book?
I think we probably need to go back a long time. As I said, I was in school, probably standard seventh and eighth, and that is the time when Prithipal came into my life. And I say came into my life, I mean, between me and my father, we always used to play this game, trying to create top 10 players from various sports, And so one night actually, we were sitting and he created a top 10 in which I knew most of the names, because they were familiar names like Balbir Singh Sr. and Dhyan Chand, Dhruv Singh, people who you read a lot because of the huge amount of hockey history that India has. But there was this name that was there, probably number four, number five, if I can clearly remember, which was Prithipal Singh. And somehow I asked him, I said, "Who is Prithipal?" And he was a little surprised in the sense that he thought I should know it and I would know it because there was a lot of sport literature that used to be coming my way through him. I mean, he's the man who's probably put me onto sport at such a young age. And then he gave me a little bit of the story of 60. He gave me a little bit of the 64, 68. Of course, I, this was probably the year 1979, um, just before it came off. So just before Mr. Bhaskaran captained the team to the gold medal. So the 80, 81, 82, 83 episodes were still not there. And I don't think even because we were in that part of India, which is the eastern part of the country, in a state, Orissa. A lot of people now would know Orissa because they hosted the last 2 World Cups. But I was there in a steel township where there's a steel plant, and my dad was there. So most of the stuff never used to reach there in time. I mean, we used to be getting newspapers which were from the east, which was from Calcutta. But most of the northern news or the northern sports happenings, or even western, which is Mumbai or Bombay at that time, never used to reach us. So for me, trying to get hold of Pritihpal was slightly difficult as a subject. But that is where it all began. And then when I came into journalism, which was never scheduled to be, but then I became a journalist, then I became a writer, and I started covering hockey. And slowly, I decided one day that since I already not knew him, but since I already had a little bit of the knowledge that came in from my childhood days I kind of thought that why not kind of expand on it. And when you want to expand beyond an article, you normally do a book. So here we are with the book. Yeah.
Ernst, I'm not sure if you were aware of the cold-blooded murder of the Indian hockey legend Prithipal, but please go ahead about your opening thoughts about our guests and the little that you know about the book.
Well, yeah. No, to be honest, I never heard about the player, nor about the murder. So we often say that today the world has become a village because of modern day communication and maybe even a more globalist view, even if that's under fire again these days. But back then, we each lived very much in our own worlds and knew next to nothing about the others also playing hockey, I guess. So, also in my part of the world, we tend to look back less at history and are a bit more rooted in present and looking towards the future, is my feeling. But of course, when you have such a rich past like Indian hockey, I guess it makes sense to also keep talking about those days. Anyway, I hope from that my European way of thinking, we can also add how the story impacts today and the near future as well, Jaspreet.
Fair point. I would like to bring in our other guest, Mr. Baskaran, in here just to pick his brains on the subject. When you were trying to break into the Indian team, Prithipal was part of the Indian hockey administration, I suppose. And if I'm not wrong, he was the chairman of the selectors when the 1975 World Cup team was picked. Tell us about your experience of maybe meeting him sometime, what you thought of his personality, and so on.
Well, first of all, I would like to appreciate Sandeep for his wonderful venture, like the other books. But this book is something different from the other books what he has ventured on, and it is quite interesting to talk to him about a few months back when he said that he wants to try and explore the possibility of what went for Pritihpal Singh. To me, remember, I was a player when in 75 he was the chairman committee and all, but I know him much before that because I am a very hockey fanatic in my family. I have seen him play when I was 13 years at Chennai. Those days, South Zone, North Zone, West Zone, East Zone was the selection criteria for a player, not the
Yeah.
national games like Rangaswamy
Yeah.
Cup and all. So this happened so in Chennai, and I saw only Singhs in North Zone. I could vividly remember Arvinder Singh playing, Mukbain Singh playing, Pritipal Singh playing, Balkishan Singh playing, lot of Darshan Singh playing. I have seen Udam playing there, North Zone. North Zone was also atop the Olympic side. So I was just about 13 years that time. Then I went on because since I was very keen follower of the hockey, I used to have the paper cutting, the press cutting. I still have at home the North Zone hockey team, which consists of Prithipal Singh. Then I seen him very closely. He was a very sturdy man, 6 footer must be, broad shoulder, very broad shoulder. I think normally when I went to Jalandhar for training camp and being from South, that remembered me how Prithipal was looking upon. Because I met him, then later on, I happened to meet him twice in 81 at Ludhiana in his college. Then again, second time, I had a lunch with him at least for 2 days in 82, just before that fatal 83 in the afternoon on his motorbike. I still remember because I was still young. I was in Bombay that time and for a national camp there. So I think the book definitely will open up the entire story of what went wrong, but it's still not undecided where it went wrong, who did it, and what for. Why this great gentleman of that year, 51 years, he could have played one more Olympics to me. He could have been the next Udham Singh, or maybe much earlier Udham Singh too, because he had everything in his shoulder. His powerful eat was very, very strong. Simply, he is not a man who has not done two hat tricks in our Olympics, one against Denmark and one against Netherlands. This history stays on still because I'm also an historian, so I would like to recall. But his powerful it was much faster than a bullet coming out. Unfortunately, the bullet killed him. So it is one thing I could remember that he was a great gentleman. He was very soft. I used to talk to my own colleague like Krishnamurti, Govinda, and all the way at the camp in '68 and '69 and '70. He was terror in the ground, and he was a baby of the field. He used to talk softly, and is those days the turban in the New Zealand people will ask, or Australian will ask about what is Singh called. They thought Singh is a thing like they can only play hockey. I just think is a community where they asked me why there is a white turban on their head. I said that's another religion. They have to cover that air. That's one among the five kirpas they have. So I think there are a lot of histories where, and just imagine a man of Prithipal ji, MSc agriculture, and a dean of the students this thing, and having an eye stature, and fatally at age of 51, and he was the first Arjun Award of hockey. We're proud to be following him. In '61, he got his Arjun Award. So I think, Sandeep definitely had covered everything, and it's been fatal one, undecided one. The headline, the book story is very good, and he was discussing with me many times. I don't know why he picked me up. He would have picked up Jaspreet Singh or so many other people who are still with him, like Mukban Singh is still alive in Ludhiana, and another player who played along with him or lived with him is Arbinder Singh. All have got gold, silver, bronze in their beautiful showcase. Very few in the world will have it. In America, Michael Phelps is great, but in India, we have people with having, gold, silver, and bronze, designing on, wearing things, but people don't even remember those, beautiful structure of basketball. In fact, I would even say that why we cannot 100 years is going on of the Indian hockey. Why we can't have a statue like in Wembley or like in Lords? Why not? This great gentleman of uh, getting goals behind, winning the best goals so far for the country, 10 goals, top scorer in all the three Olympics. It's not a joke. So I think Sandeep, it's a great one to, negotiate this kind of, heroes in your book. And I know who had made it, but you are a very clever man to do it in a different way. This book definitely reaches many people. And like me, people follow and still question mark how the gentleman is not with us.
So, sir, you definitely touched a lot of things related to his career, and who better than you to tell it because you have spent some time with him, seen him play, and all that. But I would like to go back to Sandeep here because researching for a subject is one thing, and researching for a subject that is related to a murder mystery that remains unsolved is another thing, because then people generally tend to not talk about it. They are scared, or they don't want to get involved in it, they don't want to get named. So Sandeep, how difficult was the research or get the people to speak about it?
No, both ways, honestly. I mean, the research part was a challenge. Speaking to people was a bigger challenge. And the first thing that everybody, I mean, even the players who were former players, who were part of the team, and to a point, even like Harvinder ji was there yesterday with us at the launch. And if you want to go deep into Prithipal's character, if you want to go deep into the isolation that he used to have around him, that there was this cloak, there was this constant thing around Prithipal that, I'm here to play. I don't want to talk much. I can just play my game, score my goals, and I then just go back to the dressing room or go back to the hotel. So, very few people are willing to kind of in terms of personality and the character that he is. For us, what happens largely is match after match, we're so used to writing certain good features. When I say good features, I mean we don't dissect a player from all angles. You know, he may be absolutely a brilliant player, but there could be some other facets that we kind of miss about the character and the personality. I wanted to touch upon that because you know it's not every day rather, and it's not something it's not something that normally happens in day-to-day life that an Olympic champion gets murdered. And this is the only instance in this country that you have an Olympic gold medalist who's been killed or assassinated or murdered. Pick the word that anybody would want to for using, out there. But to talk about that, players were reluctant. To talk about that, the police officials were reluctant. To talk about it, the judiciary was reluctant. I couldn't understand why, but slowly and slowly, what you get is that everybody is a little afraid that the case might reopen. Anybody can file another one. If you write something, if let's say the lawyer who was at that point of time fighting that case from the government side in the Prithipal murder case, his son is alive. Then I asked the son, "Can I have a look at the files?" He said, "No, there's no point looking at the files because the case is closed." So I said, "If the case is closed, that means you should give me access to the files because it's pointless for you. I mean, why do you keep the files there?" But for some reason, he said, "No, no, we are." Matlab he spoke in Hindi also and Punjabi, of course, and he said, "Ki, that what if the case reopens?" Now, it's very difficult to argue with lawyers on that. That what if it opens? What if it doesn't open? So the challenge was number one to get access to people, and number two, I don't know uh, Bart would know more about what happens in his country in terms of the archives. I can only compare American sport archival material with what we have in India. And I think somewhere along the way, if when I looked up from 56 onwards, right up to his death, all the archives, Nehru Library, I went, I checked the Tribune, I checked the Express, I checked the HT, I checked the Times of India. There's not much that I left. It's virtually the same material. So so whatever material you get, I mean, in all the newspapers was virtually the same. That's why I keep giving this example. If you that tomorrow, if you want some material on George Foreman, Joe Frazier, any of those top heavyweight boxers in the 60s and the 70s, or even before that, you will find probably 900 to 1,000 pieces from different writers who write absolutely differently, giving you absolute different angles to a person, personality, and a story. And I think that is where I suffered in terms of figuring out what really happened in those matches. The 60 game, or even like Mr. Bhaskaran was saying about the South Zone, whatever we had, we somehow the access was very very limited at that point of time.
And Sandeep, I would like to bring Mr. Bhaskaran in here because a little background. I was at the book launch yesterday, and what I could sense from the panel discussion was that there were two sides of Prithipal. One, he was very attached to the students when he was the dean of the student welfares in PAU, and the second was another aspect given by the another members on the panel, that he was very adamant. What he said, if he thinks this is right, even if it is wrong, he'll go ahead with it. So there was one point that I could make out from the three World Cups from 1973 to 78, and I think Mr. Bhaskaran will be able to tell that. And I'm sorry for asking this, sir, because it involves you also, because in a way that you were part of the 1973 team, you were part of the 1978 team. But when Prithipal was the chairman in 1975, and in the year when we won it, you were not selected. Was it it might be due to an injury, which I am not aware of, but was it something related to Prithipal's decision that he doesn't want certain players in the team?
Well, I think that is there's no the history behind that 75 World Cup or 78 when he was the chairman, and the irony part of it that he was there in all the 3 days selection committee, and he knew about me. He knew about me caliber because uh, he was my wonderful, man of inspiration to me. Where he thought he taught me that how well you can behave in the ground. I mean, how strong you can become in the ground. So I used to do a lot of physical workout to become have a big shoulder and also naturally. So there is no doubt about his personality on selecting the boys. And I don't think that as you said he was stubborn. If he feels right, yes, it's right. Because what I understand from those 83, not from newspaper like Sandeep and all, but I gathered few because since I had gone to the college, in fact, he used to come in a bullet. He didn't have the car. He was driving his own bullet. I remember still the lovely, stylish man. Just imagine Sadaji with 6.1 feet and then, driving a bullet and stopping the bullet in his corridor. I think that's where he was, easily, hunted, rather, I would say. If he was in the car, he would have escaped. He was a very agile man. And it was a lunchtime, I remember still. I think during the lunchtime, he was, squandered. But yes, you are right, because there was he was a very welfare man for the youth of the students there, because I know a lot of boys from the that Ludhiana University are still living in a very highly esteemed manner in Australia, because Australia wanted all the BSc agriculture or MSc agriculture people to come only to Australia. That is why you can say at least 8 to 9% Sadajis are still in Australia, outshining other commodities there. So I think he has made a good mark on all this in the issues there. But yes, I knew little bit of, he has some different opinion with some football ground and some other ground being coming up in the entire arena. And lately, I know he has, in fact, he has done a wonderful athletic stadium. It was Oshatov was on the card. 82 Asia Delhi was the first one we should get. We got Oshatov in India. First one after 75, 76, Montreal, where Netherlands, Germany all acquired about 20, 30 hospitals. India after 82 Asia. And I was discussing on that matter at Ludhiana when I met him for lunch 2 days. I remember still very strongly. Because he said it's quite easy for me to do it because funds is no problem, because he was very close to the governor, the vice chancellor, and because he was a well educated man, and yes, could be maybe some other game were not happy with him, but some games were very happy with him. It's a big community in Ludhiana where most of the sport is played and also studied in the agriculture college. They have produced many number of athletes. In fact, Ramadeep Singh, the former Indian captain at the at the Atlanta Olympics, was from that college.
Okay.
A lot of people have gone to Australia with Hardeep Singh. I know most of my colleagues who have played there. The first thing they'll say, "Aap kidhar kya padha? What did you study?" They say BSc. I say, "What is BSc?" I say BSc Agriculture. Now today, if that university was in Chennai, I would have put my granddaughter or grandson in agriculture. It's so demanding. People do not choose now medicine or engineering in down south. So I think he was a statue where he could have brought the education in a very higher way. But I think irony is still a question mark. But as far as his selection committee and other thing, I don't find any indifferent with this attitude, because he's a player who played in a different attitude. There's nobody to replace him. He could have continued to play the fourth Olympics without any hassle. Okay, 68, we had a problem of making one more captain. Okay, that came in another, that's the first time the Indian hockey went into politics. So I think, maybe 72 Munich also, most of the boys, Arvind went on to play Munich. So I think, you would have definitely played the Munich Olympics also. But maybe, I think I was very close to Mukbin Singh, another back who played for Railways. He was a man who joined police before, then he joined the Railways, you know, then he joined the university. He had, 3 caps to, in 10 years. So I think in Punjab, normally they don't leave police and join other department. So I think he was a good stature, a very honest, integrated man. I think, there is a question still, to be also how this great gentleman could be, hunted badly.
Well said, sir. Ernst?
Yes, Sundeep, I heard what you and Mr. Baskaran said about our Prithipal and his personality. But can you tell us a little bit more about the player? How was he on the field? How did he distinguish himself on the field? And yeah, I don't think that other than Mr. Baskaran, any other of us has really seen him play. Um, but as an author during your research, so what did you discover about Pritihpal, the player on the field?
Whatever, I got was basically like Mr. Bhaskaran was saying, I got a lot of information from the players itself, who all those players who played with me, played with him. I still remember very distinctly meeting Mr. Leslie Claudius in Calcutta around 2003. I think probably a little later after that, and he called me for tea in his house. He said that I won't call you for lunch because I have guests in the house. So you coming by around 4 o'clock because I also need my 2 hours sleep. And I was meeting Leslie for the second or the third time. Leslie was the captain in 1960 when we lost the Olympic final, unfortunately. But what he told me about Prithipal, and I used to ask about Prithipal to a lot of players, even though at that time I was still undecided about the book. But I used to ask about different players. Prithipal, especially, I used to, and he had one. He probably had just this lovely little paragraph. He said that when he walked onto the ground, he says the opposition usually didn't look at too many of our players, but they always tried to understand from his body language that what mood he was in today. He says that actually decided the fate of the game. That if Prithipal is in a good mood, you normally say that if he's in a bad mood, he'll probably score more goals or the penalty corners. But they used to look at the body language in a way that, if he was coming in slightly powerfully, if he was walking with purpose, then you knew that this man is going to hunt you down in a way in the game. And then I used to ask him about the deep defense and all. He says, with Prithipal at the back, you were assured that, which I think somebody yesterday said in a very different way, that if the ball goes past you, don't let the man go past you. Prithipal used to normally say that. He says, but Leslie said that we always used to say that, let's not be too physical because it didn't come naturally to him not to be physical. For Prithipal, it was like he's manning an entire territory. It wasn't like manning an entire defense. It was his territory and nobody could enter it without his permission. And Leslie also spoke about the penalty corners, and that is where when I spoke yesterday at the launch, I actually was speaking for Leslie in a way. Leslie said that he is extremely intelligent when he has to read the game. He says that is such an advantage for a captain, that is such an advantage for a team that he would normally sit down, he watches the other matches, which is other teams when they are playing who are in the pool, and he figures out his way as to how do the other defenders move, what are the angles that he can score from, what are the weaknesses of the goalkeeper. He is doing half the job, or rather the full job, that today's data analytics and the whole stream of coaches do for their penalty corner experts. And I think that really stood out, that Prithipal was just not a player who used to go and hit a powerful shot. I think what stood out was that he was a player who was hugely intelligent for his time. He was articulate when it came to describing hockey as a sport for the rest of the team. And you could see that in the play that he did in 60 and especially 64, where Harvinder said that the moment we were seeing that a match is going for a draw, or we were saying that we were a goal down, we used to look to Prithipal because he was the ace in the pack. That at the appointed hour, at the appointed time, Prithipal will get you the goal that will make you cross over and somehow win the game. I think that confidence very few teams have in their deep defenders or have in their penalty corner converters, that at the right time he's going to come up with something special and the match is yours. So in that way, I think he was slightly before time. I mean, because You normally never see a captain speak that, articulate, intelligent, understanding the angles, knew where the goalkeeper was, knew where the defenders was. Those
Mm,
were things that always stayed.
yeah. And Mr. Baskaran, same question more or less to you. Who was Pritipal the player in your eyes as a player yourself? How did you look at him as a player on the field?
Well, I think I come from down south, where we eat only carbohydrates. Okay, and Prithipal was from the north, and they eat all this together, like cornflakes, like we call it porridge. Then they have a lot of chicken, they have a lot of mutton, but that's how it differs from his physical activities. So I wanted to become like Prithipal's shoulder, because I'm 5'11", he was 6'2", so that he inspired me in 1907, sorry, 63 itself, when I was 12 years old. I was seeing the gentleman, and when he, as Sandeep was putting it, as he entered, I know some of the Pakistani players will ask two players in India whether they are in the Indian team. One is Vijay Peter and one is Pritihpal Singh. So Vijay Peter used to bring more short corners. And short corner to convert the short corner, nowadays it's called penalty corner. Short corner to convert is Prithipal Singh. That is the combination you had. So, and another thing, what Vijay Peter, of course, they are very good friends. And he was my coach in some Indian team. And he used to inject. Now you can call him inject. He used to push the ball for the penalty corner. And Prithipal, as Sandeep said, Prithipal had different places to stop against Netherlands, to stop against where I should stop. It's not the same stereotype. I stop in between the line or in between the center of the top D, striking D. He used to stop a different way so that see, he knows he's going to ball. He doesn't hit the ball out easily. The ball will be inside the goal. But the fear of the goalkeeper those days was that it was very powerful. I also heard some people like R.A. Christie, a former goalkeeper of India, and Shankar Lakshman. Some of the times when during practice, that the practice those days was a leather ball. It's called white ball cricket now. You can call it white ball cricket. The white ball is used, not the kookaburra ball. The white ball, after some time, it will be wet. Okay? And that 5.5 ounce will become 6.5 pounds. And hitting the ball into that goal, and in the training period in Patiala, I remember because I was born and brought up in Patiala for hockey and Jalandhar. Okay, by birth I am from Chennai, but for hockey I am from Punjab. Because basically 10 years, 12 years I was in Patiala and Jalandhar for training with these kind of Sadajis with powerful imagination. And I heard Shankar Lakshman telling sometimes the heat will eat the cotton in the pad. The cottons will fly from the pad. So powerful. So this is the frightening of the goalkeepers of any part of the world. And in short corner, he knows how to deceive, how to get the goal. Same one more player who copied him or played along with him was Mukbain Singh, who's still alive, but he's not able to move. But he used to have a stock. See, those are the days that India will have a very good short corner specialist or a very good forward line. So these are the plus point where Prithipal, as Mr. Claudius also used to say, that Prithipal was not a terror. He was only a terror in the striking D.
Mm.
Otherwise, all his passes are very soft. The only time he hits the ball 160 miles, 170 miles is only through the short corners. Otherwise, he was a gentleman passes. So these, I think, is such a gentleman. I still have till again one more question mark, where the question marks can keep increasing my thinking why he is not with us.
Sandeep, I would like to pitch in here, and a question comes to my mind. I was hearing you say the other day at the launch that Prithipal never used to smile or celebrate after scoring his goals. Um, and he had always kept himself in a special frame of mind for matches against Pakistan, and it has some relation to the partition time when his family moved from Nankana uh, to Punjab. So can you just tell us Punjab in India, that I mean to say, can you just tell us what's the story behind that? His missing smile, his missing celebrations, even after scoring so many goals.
I think, earlier when I met his family and a couple of his friends at that point of time, which is almost 10 years back, they always used to say that, when the partition happened, when India became India and Pakistan became Pakistan, Prithipal's family was at Nankana. Nankana is the famous place for Guru Nanak, and it's very religious and it's a very cultural place for us. So he was from a village nearby, and just before partition, before actually the carnage started, when the massacre started at that time, the family probably left a couple of weeks or 3 weeks before and came over, crossed the border, then came over to India. And the border was already made by that time, and people knew where Pakistan was and where India was. I think at some point of time, he just couldn't understand the reason to move. I mean, for somebody who's that young, which is 12, 13 years old, suddenly you feel that, you know, that this was not my home. And, I don't know where I am actually. And that baggage he carried on and carried on, because and then when you hear about the massacres, and then you can't understand, you can't actually get a grip on so much happening across the border in whichever country we are. I mean, for a lot of people in Pakistan, it was a terrible time. For a lot of people in India, it was something that completely altered the landscape. Whether it was family, whether it was your mind, whether it was your life, people lost everything during that time. And I think he couldn't forget that. And that remained as a baggage completely inside him. And that is why, even in the book, like I say, that when the 1960 Rome Olympics came by, and this is the analysis that one does. This is not something that somebody told me, but from whatever little thoughts you gather of people, from people who have already left um, Nankana and come over to India, I know a few also. Even so many of my family, my mother's side, they were all from there, and they came over, and they used to tell me these stories itself. They said that even today we look across the border and visualize a home. Even after 30 years, 50 years, 60 years, everything is already changed. You know that India is the home, and India is our country. But for those people who are still alive and who came over from there and who were children at that time, they still look over the border, and with so much hope that maybe one day I can go back and visit it. Probably go back and touch that tree. Probably go back and see the mango groves in Nankana. And there were a lot of mango groves around Prithipal's house at that time. So the 60, when we come to 60, the first thought that Prithipal always had at that point of time, and a few players also said, that he wanted to win that final very badly. What is the analysis that you do as a writer? What is the analysis you do as a human being? That for somebody who looks across the border, winning that final is just not winning a gold. Winning that final is like taking your home back, because you also believe that somebody else took it. So mentally, you can be free from there. You know you can't go back and get your house back, but here you're taking the gold medal away from a country that snatched your home. That is what most of us feel. And losing that final was terrible for him. It was very, very terrible for him. It was terrible for everybody because India lost the first Olympic final ever. But for Prithipal, it was more than just a final. It was more than just a gold medal. And I think 64 when it came in, by then there was this thing inside him as to, I failed myself again. I failed my family again. I failed my country again. I failed to do what I should have done. And I think that probably became a, a part of his personality. as we said, and a lot of people did use the word, that there was a dark side to him. The dark side wasn't negative. The dark side was his own baggage that he carried. And it was very difficult for him to throw that away. And somehow all of that manifested 64 onwards. Even the gold medal didn't help. I don't think he really warmed to the 64 gold medal. He would have probably warmed to the 60 gold medal because that was his first Olympic final. And then all of this manifested when he came and became a PAU director or a PAU dean of students' welfare. All of that manifested in the way he spoke to people or he treated people. And again, when I say treated people, please don't take it as a negative. When I say he treated people, the way he communicated with them, and he carried that baggage over and made it a point that, with the students and all, he would still be hard and tough, which really didn't work because we all know we were all students. We all have different affiliations with student unions and all of that. Students are an emotional sort. And I think that is where we may come to it later, or I just may say it here. I think somewhere he should have stepped back. He should have seriously stepped back, taken a deep breath, and figured out how to do this and not wade into student politics and tackle them on. And that probably is what snatched Prithipal away from a lot of us. And I think the future, as Mr. Bhaskaran said, from 83 onwards till almost, till he would have been alive, naturally. I think we lost an intelligent man who could have enriched Indian hockey so much more.
Sandeep, you brought us back to the subject of the book, that is from player to the mystery around his murder and how the politics in the university embroiled him into that. And Prithipal, being Prithipal, the kind of stern and uh, single-minded personality he was, he found it right to do what he did. But eventually, it led to his murder. And as you said, he could have stepped back, but he did not. But because the mystery wasn't solved, because the perpetrators of this were not caught and punished, do you think India failed in giving Prithipal and his family the justice they deserved?
Yes, I think so, and I think there are places in the book, probably in the last, where I write a chapter just after the murder. I do say that yes, India failed him. It is. I somehow feel that when you send condolences, and even if the condolences came from the Prime Minister Indira Gandhi at that time, but when you deal with somebody like a Prithipal, when you deal with a death like that, when you deal with an assassination, when you deal with a murder which is in broad daylight and somebody comes and pumps bullets into probably one of your most or one of your biggest players at that point of time, you need to dig deeper. You need to dig deeper, not because you want to give justice. You need to dig deeper because you want to bring justice to a particular person so that the word spreads that you can't get away with this. That is where I think the country failed, number one. The state failed horribly. I think Punjab failed miserably in that account because at the end of the day, we are all states and the whole states become a union, and that is what India is. But the state comes also first in terms of policing. The state also comes first in terms of the judiciary. And I think that is where the police and the judiciary failed because they couldn't understand at that point of time. But again, I'm saying my book doesn't go into the fact that there could be a conspiracy because I think to write a line like that, you still need to be factual to a point. You can't just put it in the air and say that there was a bigger conspiracy at play. But when I meet police officials, when I meet lawyers, when I meet the judiciary, and when I meet other people who were there at that point of time, you tend to kind of take a view or probably take a 10-degree, 20-degree turn somewhere and feel that yes, there was something larger in play. And that larger play could have been that, like in the book, I've said that everybody knew he was going to be killed. The police knew he was going to be killed. The judiciary knew he was going to be killed. The vice chancellor knew he was going to be killed. Otherwise, why will a police constable be stationed outside his house? Number one. Why will there be 6 to 7 police officers, including an inspector and a sub inspector, who were 2 kilometers away? And when he was coming on his bike, we had been already warned that don't go on your bike, go in the ambassador car that you have been given. He refused to do that. Now that was his personality, that I will not do those, or I won't take those precautions. I'll still go on my bike because I also want to see who's going to kill me. Now that is an aggressive attitude, which is fine. That was his attitude. But knowing that that was his attitude, you should have surrounded him with at least the police to be stationed at various places from where he goes on his bike to the building where his office is. Nobody was there. The police came exactly after 3 minutes after they heard the firing. By then, everybody had fled. So I think it was a combination of so many events that happened, and the last chapter. And a lot of people will disagree and agree with me on this, but it is something that I think also happened to the country. Mr. Bhaskaran would remember it so clearly. Each of us remembers it so clearly. We won the World Cup in June, the Cricket World Cup, and the whole country changed. But that doesn't mean that the criminal justice changes. That doesn't mean that the police doesn't do their job. The country was celebrating because we had won a World Cup. But in that celebration, somewhere or the other, beneath those sheets, those chapters, or whatever there was, we forgot justice needs to be given to Prithipal Singh.
Yeah.
We're talking about justice. Ernst, sorry to interrupt you, but I would like to bring in a gentleman here, Ajaib Singh, uh, who was the General Secretary of the Students' Union of the Punjab Agriculture University at that time. And allegedly, it has been said that it has been written many times before as well that he was part of the plan, but nothing was proven. There was no evidence against him. Uh, he, in fact, was on the panel when the book was launched and discussed. Let's hear what he had to say.
Yes, sir.
As far as Prithipal's contribution in the field of hockey is concerned, nobody can challenge his achievements. But so far as his attitude toward the students, he was supposed to work for the welfare of the students, but quite opposite did he. As we have seen in the whole practice of his career as a director of students welfare, he gone against the students, against the interests of the students, and he had an attachment attitude against those who differ with his personal view of life, your personal opinions. And the glaring example of is Pyara Singh, brilliant handball player who was to be selected in the for the Asian Games, but he wrote a particular letter against him, showing him as having links with the terrorists, and he particularly mentioned that if he is selected, he will bring disgrace to the country. So he was not selected at that time, and afterwards he put the case. Pyara Singh put the case before the BC and showed the carbon copy of the letter to him, and ultimately he was we can say demoted from his post as a DSW.
But sir, my one last question. He was killed at the end of the day. We don't.
So that was more or less the video, a little bit longer than we anticipated, Jaspreet, but back to
Yeah,
you.
um, your thoughts on that? He mentioned another name called Pyara Singh, who was killed before, a handball player, and he alleged and he maintained that he was adamant he was not working for the welfare of the students, and he also said that he had a role in getting Pyara Singh not picked for the handball team because of his personal animosity. Uh, Tell us something about that. You must have mentioned all those parts in the book as well.
In a way, I disagree with Ajay on this particular ground where he says that Prithipal Prithipal had personal issues. There was no doubt about that. Prithipal had personality clashes with Prithipal Singh Randhawa, the student leader who was murdered in 1979. And though that thing was also put on Prithipal Singh the player, that Prithipal Singh the player, because he had issues with Prithipal Singh Randhawa, the student leader, he got him murdered. That was incorrect. Then Ajay also says this, and also a lot of people and the police files, whatever I've gone through, also say Pyara was shot in the hostel during a skirmish that happened between two groups of students. Now, Pyara was in his room. Pyara was in his room. When he heard the firing, he came out. When he came out, there was a bullet that was fired from the left of hostel number 3, which hit him, and it was from a .12 bore gun. So it wasn't one single bullet. There were pellets in that. The pellets all went into his body, and probably around 3, 4, or 5 days later, in hospital because of lead poisoning, Pyara died. That also fell on Prithipal Singh. Prithipal had problems with Pyara, but Prithipal didn't have wasn't the kind of a guy who will get students murdered because he has issues with them. Give me one teacher, give me one principal, or give me one VC who's not had a problem with students.
Mm.
Across the country, across the world, a lot of people in the universities and colleges do have issues with their students, but it doesn't mean that they start murdering them. That is the place where Prithipal was right in a sense that if he had issues, he didn't go out and murder them. And Ajay is wrong on that count. That Prithipal Singh, the player that we are talking about, he's the one who got Pyara killed. No, he didn't get Pyara killed. But what really happened was, because it became such a massive, massive thing, Punjab Students' Union was at the peak of its power in Punjab. They had Marxist leanings, there were leftist leanings in the whole union. They decided that it is high time now that because he had killed one earlier in 79 and now Pyara has also died, it is time for us to kill Prithipal. And that is how the whole plan was hatched. The plan was hatched inside the hospital itself that in 30 days of the funeral of Pyara Singh, Prithipal Singh will be killed. And they achieved it. They killed him. They killed him in the open. But
Mm.
yes, I completely disagree that Prithipal Singh, the player, was responsible for the murder of two of the most brightest students. Randhawa, as a lot of people yesterday also said at the launch, was a fantastic orator and the guy who was rising. Yes. When these things happen in a university, when somebody like a Prithipal Singh says that you will not do any students' union kind of things inside the PAU, and at that point of time, Prithipal Singh had submitted a letter to the VC which had the names of 14 to 16 students who should be thrown out of the university, otherwise, the university will suffer. Yes, Prithipal went to that extent to have them rusticated. But does it mean, and this is a question that I've asked, does it mean that if somebody wants students rusticated, you go out and kill him? By that logic, we'll be killing a lot of people in Indian universities.
Mm. Okay, shifting our focus maybe back to the game of hockey again. Mr. Baskaran, you were an Olympian, and I am told that you suffered the heartbreak of not making the semifinals in Sydney 2000 after a tough loss to Poland. So as a player who has been there, when you saw India back on the Olympic podium with the bronze medal in the Tokyo Games and then again in Paris, what was your reaction both as a former player and coach to that feat?
Well, I think when Sandeep and people talk about this massacre happening in the university of ill feeling of different games, and it was actually as Sandeep pointed out, there was a tussle of the All India University Board, trying to select the team, and and Punjab had a lot of players, all those things. And overall, I think why that should be allowed. Rather, even now, the question mark is there will be some dean or the chairman or the principal of that university wants to clean up the discipline in sport, and it has to be through the sport. There can be ill feeling or maybe different opinion, but being Prithipal at that higher level where Punjab has produced many Olympians and many gold medalists in right from after independence, 48, 52, 56, then 60. It is more or less, and at least 20, 25 Olympians who brought gold medals for the country, and that too they all hail from Punjab. So I think everybody knows what is Prithipal's character. And the next man who was in Himachal was Charanjit Kumar. He too was dean of university there in Himachal, and he was the man who scored the winning goal in 64 Olympics. He also had the problem, but he never had this kind of killing or hunting on an individual thing. But I think to me, I think it was a big loss, a big I would say where Prithipal was very adamant to cleans up the university. That's because he saw a lot of things going wrong. I mean, that's what I came to know from other university deans, which I'm very close in Patela or in, we had wonderful doctors who traveled with me in the Olympics. So he used to tell me that, if that would not happen, Punjab and would have become one of the best university, like, any university like in Australia or in US or in England. So I think that is a pity. Like, having lost football, I think we lost one of the best university from Punjab or wherever, because after that nobody wanted to take the chair. That's what Sandeep is meaning about. You can't
And
do
sir,
that. You can't. Somebody don't like him on the chair. There are other ways to take him out, but not through bullet.
yeah,
So
that's
I think
correct, sir. And
this
we
is
all
very harsh
we
on
all
one individual. Leopold he brought glory to the country. He was a very popular for a hockey player and everything. But what happened to somebody like one of the best doctorate in Loughborough University or in Texas University or in Georgia Tech? Will they kill somebody like people like Carl Lewis or people like Edwin Moses? To doctorate, they're all in the universities. There will be a lot of
no,
disopinion with other things, but I think overall the book I feel I think will open up and see where the truth was missed, where the truth was neglected, or maybe it was hidden somewhere, or the truth is still continuing to do that because Prithipal didn't have anybody to follow him.
Mhm.
I think
Okay, but
that's where I think to me, I have lost a man with a lot of inspiration who had done for the country, and also in Punjab, I still repeat, people of that stature they only go to police, they only join police,
sorry to
nowhere
interrupt you,
else.
sir. Here, we are a little short on time here. Sorry to interrupt you, but I guess Ernst's question was around the 2000 Olympics, Sydney Olympics, where we lost to Poland, and you were the coach at that time, and he related it to the bronze medals that we have won back to back in Tokyo and Paris. So he just wanted to know your contrasting reactions when we were on the edge of reaching the semifinals in Sydney, but we could not, and uh, to the Tokyo and Paris Olympics,
Yeah,
where
yeah,
we
yeah. I
actually.
got it. Because see, I was in Paris. I saw all the games in Paris. Watched the game, and I think they were, kind of even at Tokyo. We won a bronze medal after a very long time. I think when we are rebuilding, that this will happen. And in Paris, I think the team definitely should have been on the final because they played few minutes badly in the semi final. I think that match, I think they could have, in fact, they played the bronze medal quite well, but the semi-final match, I think, was a very bad game where India could have played the finals. And I felt so bad that we were much closer because from bronze in the Tokyo Olympics, you could have gone up to the podium at the higher level, which they deserved it because um, everybody was at the best of it. And I felt so bad because the The winning back to back is okay when it is people feel proud of that. But I still have the meaning of saying that India being 8-time gold medalist and other bronze medal in Punjab. There's a saying: if you come with bronze, people don't even come to the airport. People don't allow you in your house. So I hope still, a lot of players like Ajit Pal and, Atmik Singh, whom I played with them, they said, they're very simple, in the bronze mein kya hota hai? What is there in the bronze? So that is the spirit, the Punjab, family had on the gold medal. And it's true. I mean, it's true. I mean, anywhere in the Olympics in America, nothing is second. In the US, nothing is second.
No,
And
that's
Carl
true, sir.
Lewis
And
brings
I think
second there.
I think
People
I think
don't
we can
consider him as Carl Lewis.
I think
Mhm.
we can go on and on with this because Sandeep has covered 9 World Cups and several Olympics. He has a lot to share, and if we had time on our hands, we would have loved to hear from him. I have shared the media box with him 3 4 times. So and I'm sure we'll be meeting Ernst next year in Belgium and Netherlands for the World Cup, which will be 10th for Sandeep, and maybe Mr. Baskaran will also be there. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us, and it was really enlightening to know about Prithipal, and a little hurt. It hurt as well because it's a tragedy that remains unsolved, and we don't know that whether anything will be done after the book or not. Maybe a movie comes up once again, or maybe an OTT platform, 8 episode series. So you never know who picks up the book and decides to use the script and asks Sandeep for the right. So let's see if that happens, if that transpires. But well done, Sandeep, on the book. Thank you, Mr. Bhaskaran, for joining us. And Ernst, your closing
Thank you.
thoughts.
No, no, absolutely. Thank you for sharing those insights with us, especially for me, who is living in Europe and not accustomed to the Indian culture that much. Obviously, it's very insightful to hear those stories, and it's always great to see the passion for the great players that your country produced. So, thank you very much for sharing. Even if this is a tragic story. It still highlights the beauty of hockey in India. So thank you very much for sharing that. Um, Thanks everybody for listening to Studio Hockey. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast so you will not miss our next episodes. Until next time, happy hockey. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Thanks.
Bye bye. Thank you.